We'll start with ease of achievement on a scale of 1 to 10. Photography and virtual tours. It takes 3 to 4 years to complete. Cost of education, 3,000 per year to 40,000 depending on your level of education. Cost of equipment such as cameras, lenses, lighting, tripods, etc., anywhere from 5 to 20,000. Because of the time and high cost required to complete your education in this field, even as an amateur, and the high cost of equipment, we'll give it a 1. Next, home inspections. Time to complete your training, 2 to 6 months, plus annual courses to stay up to date with new building codes and so on. Cost of education, 5 to 5,000, depending where you go to take your course and the quality of the training you get. Cost equipment, such as, let's say, thermal camera, good ladders, and so on, can cost anywhere from 2,000 to 20,000, depending on the desired quality and performance. For instance, a high performance thermal camera can cost as much as 20,000. Given the somewhat moderate requirements to gain a designation in this field, we'll give it 7 points. Next, moving services. Assuming that you already have your driver's license, no time or cost of equipment no time or cost of education required. However, the cost of equipment can be very high. Buying a moving truck and the necessary attire such as dollies, straps, etc., you're looking at minimum 50, 60,000 unless you plan on renting the moving trucks. And let's not forget that you might need to hire more people. So let's give it 8 points. Next, mortgage specialist. 6 months to complete the course and about $1,500 to get your license. Not much equipment required to start the business, and you probably have all that you need to operate already. But let's say anywhere from $0 to $200 in case you have to purchase any specific program or calculator. So we'll give it 8 points. Home staging and styling specialist. Time to complete your education. It depends on the quality and the complexity of your training. It can take anywhere from 1 day of online learning on how to stage a room to 2 years of college to learn the fundamentals of interior decorating. And it can cost you anywhere uh, from $20 for an online course that would basically teach you next to nothing to 1500 online course to learn the principles and application of home staging, which based on our research, none of them teach you anything related to how to leverage your designation for success in real estate. The startup cost, no matter where you get your designation, is zero because it's basically the fastest designation you can get at a relatively low cost, no startup cost. And given that you can start right away, we'll give it a 10. So, on the topic of ease of achievement, cost, time and cost per course and equipment, photography scored 1 point, home inspection 7, moving 6, mortgage specialist 8, home staging 10. Independence and associative costs. Can you operate independently without much government interference? And are there any annual or monthly costs required for you to operate and put your newly acquired designation to use? So that's what we'll be looking at. So photography and virtual tours, because there are no government regulations and no mandatory associative costs to practice, we'll give it a 10 points. Home inspections, depending where about in the world you're from, as each country, state, or province might have their unique regulations. For instance, in Canada, the only two regulated provinces are Alberta and British Columbia, which would require a mandatory annual membership. However, no matter the province, all trainings must be in line with certain building codes and regulations, right? And There can also be some other fees if you want to be a member of certain associations. So for this reason, we'll give it 5 points. Moving services, no government interference here, and barely any associative costs beside your license sticker and insurance. So we'll give moving services 9 points. Mortgage specialist. As we all know, mortgage agents operate pretty much like us realtors, which is a highly government regulated industry and has many associative costs, which I won't go into, but because of that, we'll give it 1 point. Home staging and styling specialist, zero government interference, no mandatory fees to operate. At a minimum, depending on the size of the business, you might want liability insurance, but not required to start practicing, therefore, a 10 points. So, on the topic of independence and associative costs, photography, virtual tours scored 10 points, home inspections 5, moving services 9, mortgage specialist 1, home staging and styling specialist 10. Next, priority and spectrum of use. We'll divide these very important indicators into three categories. P for priority, meaning is the service I bring to the table a top priority for the home seller? D for diversity, can my unique advantage be used by owners of different types of properties, from condos to country homes, and different scenarios like vacant, occupied, investment, and so on? And SP for assistance with selling with the selling process. Can my unique advantage assist me during all stages of the selling process, such as list it, prep it, and sell it? So, photography, virtual tours, priority, absolutely. Professional photography is key in selling real estate, and we all know that. That's the buyer's first interaction with the property, right? So, that for that we give it 10 points. Diversity, can we use it on different type of properties? Absolutely. Unless the property is a tear down and there is no need for professional photography, right? So 10 points for diversity. Assistance with the selling process. Can my unique advantage as a photographer assist me as a realtor during all stages of the selling process? Let's see. What would be the objectivity level in terms of getting the listing? One scenario could be, let's do a bit of role playing. After the initial introduction and the pre-qualifying step, you say, Mrs. or Mr. Seller, besides being a successful realtor, I am a professional photographer. My work helps sell beautiful properties like yours faster and more and for more money. When you list your home with me, you'll get this, and that free of charge. So, handing them the pen, what do you say we get to work right away? Seller, that sounds great, but before we get to taking pictures, we got some repairs to do. We also need to hire a cleaner, and most importantly, we want to bring in a professional home stagers because we really want to get the most money for our home and get it sold in the least amount of time. So, can you help me with any of those things I need? Well, and you say no, but we can contract out all the services for an additional price. After all, you'll be saving on your photography cost. Let's see, a professional photographer costs anywhere from $300 to $500, while staging services, which may include photography, cost about $2,000 if not more. Seller, I'll have to think about it. If anything, I have your number, we'll call you. So, as you can see, it can go sideways very quickly because the home seller have other tasks to complete before getting to the photo staging stage. Therefore, we'll only give it a 5 for assisting with selling process, which again is list it, prep it, and sell it. If it doesn't help us with the listing step, obviously the other two are irrelevant. Home inspections. Priority, of course, is a priority in most cases, but not all. As we all know, especially during getting worse, the bidding wars, when a lot of times, unfortunately, the home inspections in conditions gets waived. Another scenario, if the property is a condo unit, for instance, where maintenance is handled by the condo corporation, in most cases, home inspection is not even considered. Also, if the property goes on the market as sold in as is condition, home inspections become irrelevant. Not to mention that in most cases, home inspections are requested by the buyer. Can it help the seller with the selling process? It could, but can it also happen that the buyer might not trust the seller's report and still request their own? It actually happened to me once where the buyer thought it was suspicious that my seller had his own home inspection, which having I suggested having it done because we were aiming for a bidding war. So for those reasons, I will give it an 8 for priority, a 7 for diversity, and because although it might not really help with the listing step, as other tasks might be more applicable, but to some extent, we'll give it a 5. Moving services. In terms of priority, well, the house would have to be first of all prepared for the market and then sold before making any moving arrangement. So the objectivity level on this one can be very high. The seller might also have another moving plans. Some they choose to just rent a U-Haul truck and get help from family and friends. So 5 points on priority. As far as diversity goes, what if the property is vacant or just tenanted? No need to move anything. Therefore, 5 points. Assistance with the selling process, very low chances on getting the listing by offering free moving services. No input on the prepping step either, unless you offer storage services as well, and the seller have a lot of stuff to store. But what are the chances? And pretty much no input on the selling step. So 2 points for assistance with the selling process. Mortgage specialist, definitely a priority for those looking to purchase another property, but not everyone is. Besides, most people will go to the bank first before reaching out to a mortgage agent. So we'll give it a 7. Diversity, we'll give it another 7, just because not everyone benefits from going through a mortgage agent. Like we said, people first choice is the bank. In terms of helping with the selling process, not so much. Let's say, for the sake of the argument, in order to get the listing, you say to the seller, you say to the seller, and that's assuming they need a new mortgage and that the bank won't give it to them. Mr. Seller, if you list your home with me, I'll help you get the mortgage on your new home free of charge. Can you say that? Of course you can, but can you actually mean it? Are you 100% sure? Especially if their bank already refused them? What if you can? Because maybe they don't qualify. A lot of issues can rise from such an approach. As far as assisting with the prepping or selling steps in the selling process, that's a 0. But to be fair, I'll give it 1 point for assistance with the selling. I'll give it a 1 for assistance with the selling process. Home staging, styling, or property preparedness specialist, as we like to call our students. Priority, unlike 20 years ago, home staging is recognized today as a high priority in the process of selling and buying real estate. It helps the seller prepare for the market and, in most cases, sells faster and for more money. We pretty much know that. And if done correctly, using targeted staging and buyer psychology techniques, it can even help the buyers in their decision making process. Therefore, 10 points on priority. Diversity, any home seller and property type can benefit from the use of staging. From a small studio in downtown to country home and everything else in between, either vacant or occupied. So another points for diversity. Assistance with the selling process, will give it a 10 points with no questions asked. Why? There is no faster and easier way to secure a listing than that of offering home staging or staging services or styling services, because every home seller out there now recognizes that in order to have a successful sale, the property must be properly prepared for the market. So, as we already know by now, securing the listing is the most important step. Preparing it is the fundamental of staging, and proper application of staging strategic targeted marketing, it's what's going to guarantee the sale. So, on the topic of spectrum of use, photography scored 25 points, home insurance 21, moving services 12, home mortgage specialist 15, and home stagings and styling 30. And lastly, profitability. Does my unique advantage has the ability to help me generate additional income during and post closing of each deal? Let's look at photography again. Unless your client asks for a family photo shoot session, I don't see how you can generate additional income either during or post closing of each deal. But I'll be reasonable and give it 1 point instead of zero, assuming that a request for a photo shoot can happen. Home inspections. Assuming that the home seller is going to buy another property and that is not a freebie already offered to get the listing, well, we'll give it 5 points. Moving services. Other than maybe assisting the new homeowner, and I don't see how you could earn additional income from each deal. Therefore, we give it 3 points. Mortgage specialist, because there is the possibility that the home seller might be needing your services after selling the property. I'll give it 5 points. Home staging and styling specialist. If I may say, as a seasoned property preparedness specialist slash interior decorator slash home stager slash stylist slash realtor, okay, I'll stop. But I'll still tell you the possibilities are endless during the sale as well as after the closing of each deal. For instance, during the deal, you can be charging on additional rental items, or it's quite possible for a potential buyer to fall in love with your design setting that he has to purchase the furniture and accessories from you. Or it can also happen that other homeowners in the area checking out the property during an open house, let's say, potentially looking to sell, can ask you to stage their home, regardless whether they work with an agent or not. And if they don't, that's even better, right? After the closing, if let's say you did an absolutely exquisite job that everyone was impressed with, it's quite possible to have either the buyer or the seller, or even both, ask that you decorate your new home. An excellent opportunity for additional income. May not, maybe not as much as the commission you get from the sale, but let me tell you, it can be very close. So, on the topic of profitability, photography and virtual tours scored 1 point, home inspection 5, moving services 3, mortgage specialist 5. Here is the total score